Welcome back. Just under 2 weeks ago, I passed two milestones. The first was I hit 8 months of owning my EQS 580 sedan. The second one was I went over 10,000 miles. And having reached those two milestones, I wanted to reconsider the wisdom of buying an early model vehicle, even if it's a Mercedes-Benz. And so I considered, do I regret being an early adopter of the EQS platform? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to get out and show you some of the things I'm going to mention so you'll get a picture of the things that are currently a challenge with this car, which I still love. But before I do that, I'm going to give you my monthly usage update and my expenses. So as I said, I just went over 10,000 miles. And in that time, I have spent on charging $263, most of which was at home because it's free when I'm on the road, but my nearest charger is 40 miles away, so I have to do a lot of my charging at home. And that compares with my previous S-Class. They got roughly 20 miles a gallon. Gas here in North Carolina is roughly $4 a gallon for the premium, which is what the S-Classes require. And so if I had done that 10,000 miles in my old car, I would have spent roughly $2,000 on gas in this 10,000 miles. So already I have saved over $1,700 just in gas prices. But let's get back to the regrets I might have as an early adopter. They fall into three basic categories. One is the design of the car. Two is the comfort and ride. And three is the technology. We're going to hit each of those individually. We're going to start with the design of the car. The prototype of what they said the EQS was going to look like looked really sharp. It had some nice lines. It had a front end that looked similar to the S-Class, but a little sleeker, and it really looked good. What Mercedes decided to do was make the most aerodynamic production car in the world, which is what I'm sitting in. And in doing so, they did some things that have created a challenge for me. They rounded off the hood, they steepened the angles of the car, and it took me a while to get used to the look of it. But in all honesty, at this point, I like the look of it. But the change has made life a little harder. We start with the outside design. The sleekness of the front has a lot of people concerned. And initially I didn't like it, but once I looked at it in person, I really thought it looked great. And that's an area I do not regret in purchasing this car. But as you saw from the prototype, that would have been a little bit better. Here's where it gets challenging. You see the angle of the roof makes the entry to the door a little narrower. And so it's harder to get in the car. I didn't notice it at first because of how I get in the driver's seat. But I did notice my wife and dad having a hard time getting into their seat. So if you approach the car and it has been locked recently, the doors may not pop open for you. So you can either unlock the door with your key fob, which will pop these doors out, or you push on the handle, they'll come out, and the mirror will come out, and then you pull slightly, the window comes down a little bit, and then you can get in the car. So when I, as a driver, approach the car to get in, this is how it looks. Sit down normally, swivel the hips, sit back, shut the door, and when I start the car, my seat moves forward, and because I have the steering wheel front and back, it stays there. But the car moves me into place so I can get in and out comfortably. I'm ready to leave. Turn off the car. Open the door. My seat moves back. I get out very comfortably. For my passengers, it's a different story. This is where my wife likes to have the seat. So if I were just to get in like I normally do, I'm stuck here. I have to pivot farther, spin around, push myself up, and then shut the door. And now I'm here comfortably. But that's not natural. That's not easy. You shouldn't have to back your way into a chair just to sit down in a car. And I've seen most of my passengers have to do that. So here's been my solution. I set number 3 to be all the way down and all the way back. So when a person is going to get into a car, they just get in the car. When they're going to get out, seat's already back. And it's a much easier process. So here's me getting in. Boom. The only difference is I got to reach for the door now. This is why I wanted the power doors on this car, but supply chain wouldn't let that happen. And there I am. And now I can hit number 2 or 1 and be in the position I want to be. With the hood not being able to be opened, they put the washer fluid refill station here. With the car unlocked, you pop it open, you pour in your washer fluid, and you're all set. But some of it drips on the ground, which means they haven't got the channel fully secured, so I'm losing part of the washer fluid. Now I've been asked, and I asked the dealership, do I have to buy, like the manual says, a specific kind of washer fluid? And they said yes, because a lot of washer fluids today have stuff that leaves a film on the car to do either de-icing or something like that. But the problem is it interferes with the camera sensors on the window. So you need to buy a specific kind of washer fluid. And this was like $6, and it'll give me 3 of these full. So it's not a bad deal overall, but you do need to be careful of what you put in there. That I've had several of my passengers tell me is this lip here, it's hard to get the foot over when they get in and out. And I've watched my dad specifically have a hard time with it. Well, I had another friend who mentioned it. And I'll also tell you, this seat right here is set in the number 1 position where the passenger would like to sit. And for a luxury, top-of-the-line car, I'm 5'6", so it's not a big deal for me. But I'm getting in, look at this. I'm 5'6", it's hitting my eyebrow. So I have to lean forward and scoot over with my hands to get into my very nice, very luxurious car. And I shouldn't have to do that, but that's because of the way they designed the car. And the legroom for me is okay, but my foot is touching the parts under there, so I haven't got a lot of mobility here. If I wanted to stretch my legs out, I couldn't. I'm comfortable back here, but it's not enough leg room that it really needs to have for an S-Class level car. So here's me getting out. Let's see how this goes. I don't ride back here. Well, that was easier than getting in. But getting in was a challenge, and I shouldn't have to. Now we talk about the comfort ride in the back seat for the passengers. First, we go with the very positive. These head pillows are amazing and really, really help. I use them on my car every day. I make sure I adjust them, and they really help to relax you. Mercedes also provides you these nice handy-dandy back pillows, which are nice. And both my seats in the back are heated and cooled. And they do have some maneuverability, not up and down front or back, but the headrest does go up and down. And the seat does go back a little bit. Which is a lot better than most other cars. I'm not comparing it to most other cars, I'm comparing it to the S-Class. S-Class back seats can go farther back than these. And they don't have as much padding as the S-Class. So knowing the difference between the two, I can tell that it's not as soft as the S-Class back seat. But again, the passengers who I've driven haven't been in that many modern S-Classes, so they haven't really noticed the difference. But it's a whole new platform, and those who have compared the two have noticed, and it is something that makes you possibly regret not just going ahead and getting the S-Class because it's not as comfortable in the back. As far as the ride goes, this is still the most comfortable ride I've ever had. It is the smoothest car I've ever had, and it is at or better than my 2010 S-Class, and clearly it is a superior ride to any other car I've ever driven in. That said, I've seen the modern S-Classes and heard people who've had good experience driving both, and it's not as smooth. And part of that is something I haven't mentioned yet, in that this is a totally new platform. They didn't just take an S-Class, rip out the engine, and put in a motor with batteries. They built this thing from the ground up, which is why it's aerodynamic and why the ride isn't as good as the S-Class, because the S-Class has had decades to prepare for it, and it does a better job. And this car weighs 5,500 pounds, so it's hard to give a car this big strong enough shocks to really smooth out the road like the S-Class does, which is significantly lighter. And so as you drive along, as a driver, considering could I have gotten the S-Class or this one, that's another thing that makes you think, maybe I should have just gone with the S-Class. The third thing that causes possible regret is the technology. And if you're like me, you say, what can you mean technology? This is the most amazing car ever, technology-wise. And so it really comes down to comparisons with Tesla, with some of the things it has. As an example, when I can set up my charging here to charge 100% or my usual, which is 80%, how hard was that? That's amazing. I plugged the car into a DC charger and it instantly synchronizes with the DC charger, and within 60 seconds, I'm getting a free charge and it's showing me that it's charging. But through the car and through the car's app, you cannot time when you're going to charge. So for those who have electricity bills at home that are cheaper during certain hours, it would be nice from the car or from the Mercedes app to tell it charge starting at this time or charge from these hours to these hours. And it can't do that right now. My wall box at home does do that with its app, so I can charge it when I want to. One of the other things people complain about is the start-stop button. And you ask yourself, what could be wrong with the start-stop button? Well, former Tesla owners say in the Tesla, you get in the car and you can literally put the foot on the brake, put it into drive, and just go. And because it knows the keys in the car, and so it's ready to go for you. And when you stop the car and get out, you put it in park, you walk away, the car locks itself and shuts itself down. Whereas in the Mercedes, if I have somebody driving my car, like if I go to a place where I have to have it valeted, I've got to tell them, make sure you push the stop button when you get out of the car, or else it won't shut the car off. And so that's an inconvenience. One of the early adapter challenges, and now potential regret, that hasn't been the case until recently, is the charging port. Here you see the J1772 port for charging at home, and I pull this off and I can do the DC fast charging with a CCS charger. It works great. I love it. I have no problems with it whatsoever. Except in June, Mercedes announced that they're going to go to the Tesla charger, the NACS standard, which means in 2024 models, you're going to provide an adapter from this to the Tesla ports. And in future models, this will look like a Tesla charging port, which means I'm already outdated. I'm going to have to buy down the road an adapter to charge my car. It'll probably take a few years, and they're building stations that have both chargers, so I'll be okay. But I already know that in the current model year, I have a car that charging ports are outdated on. But that's about it technology-wise as far as I can think off the top of my head. There are some things that are challenges, and we've already discussed, and this is actually more important, the times I have had parts of the car stop working. Like if I have my ambient lighting, give me a pop-up warning, hey, I'm not working right now temporarily. Or I've had it say, interior assistant not available right now, see the owner's manual. And so I've had a couple times where I've had that problem, and typically getting out of the car, going away for a little while, coming back, it fixes itself. It may take a couple days, but it usually is small for me, and it fixes itself, which is why I wanted a 23 model, not a 22 model. And that's about it for technology. And so there we have it. For the first time in my 8 months of owning this, I've really focused today on the things that are negative about the car, things that I might regret being an early adopter on. And with the way the economy is going, you know, when I bought the car, I bought it knowing that it had all these challenges. I knew I'd be an early adopter. I knew there'd be some things that I wouldn't have that other cars would have in the future or the S-Class would have now. But I wanted an electric car because I knew gas prices were going up, and I knew Mercedes had this amazing MBUX system in the EQS, and I thought this would be the right time to go ahead and make that move. So do I regret it? Yes and no. Yes, because I know there are some things I wanted in this car that I've discussed with you that it doesn't have because of supply chains. And because of the way things are going, I may not be able to replace it as soon as I'd wanted to. So perhaps it would have been wiser for me just to wait until I got the perfect car a couple years from now when they had modernized it. In February, they announced they're going to a whole MBOS system. And maybe I should have waited for that. But my final answer is going to be no. I do not regret buying this car. It is amazing. It is the best car I've ever driven. Anyone who walks by it looks at it, and people will stop and talk to me about their observation of the car. And so, while that's fun, that's not why I got it. I got it because it's comfortable. It gives me a massage like it's doing right now. It drives for me, I've shown you. And it gives me all the information I need. It has a nice, big, beautiful screen, which is good because my vision is not as good as it used to be. And it's absolutely terrific. I love this car. If I end up not being able to get a replacement in the next 8 years, I'm okay with that. This is a car that I'm glad I have, and I look forward to the excitement of the 2025 models and 26 models, because by then this first version of what it looks like will have changed some. It'll gotten a little smoother, a little more impressive, and the features will be even better than they are now. So I'm excited about the future of the car. I'm excited about my future driving this car. And that's all I have for month number 8 at 10,000 miles. Thanks for watching. You have a great day.